You can cut out that other shit.
Hey yo, aim. Yeah, yeah. Run it up, Blondo. Run it up, Blondo.
Hey, bitch, I'm from Texas, where we should ride in swangers and put diamonds in our necklace. Pour drink inside my lemonade till it look like a Pepsi. See, I come from the D where we got checks and we be flexing. If you ain't from my state, then you should know don't fuck with Texas. Hey, we always strap, we keep our weapons. My mama from the A, she slowed it down for me at 7. Used to think Pimp C was a guy before he went to heaven. I knew what pushing P was before Gunna even said it. Hey, C0 taught me keep my weapon and never trust a nigga or a bitch cause it's expected. No killers from the country, they ride horses and throw sevens. Got niggas in the east ride ATVs with Mac 11s.
First off, you better remember what that sign say before you come down here to this bitch. Don't mess with Texas. Cause you know everybody around this bitch got guns, nigga.
Hey, see, I'm from Texas. We got Beyonce, Trader Truth, and we can't forget Devin. Big shout out to them boys, and I can't forget back to Texas. I've been feeling like Luca, how I bought that shit a blessing. Number one rule in Texas, keep it solid, ain't no telling. Hey, and always keep your fucking weapon. A nigga try me, other guys, we got no choice but stretch him. If he survive these shots at first, bet he die on that stretcher. These diamonds, I got water, might just go Johnny, my next one. Hey, this Texas tea is what I drink. Sauce Walker had us dripping, sauce having hoes in on drink. Young Nasa had us jigging, dipping, ain't know how to think. Now I got all these niggas stepping, swiping, catching plays. Hey.
You are listening to This Week in Clown World with Ben and Hobbs, so sit back, relax, take your black pill, and enjoy the show.
Well, good evening, friends. It's once again time for This Week in Clown World with Ben and Hobbs. He's Ben, I'm Hobbs. You're in Clown World. But you already knew that, didn't you? Because honk honk, you're in Clown World. And boy, howdy, do we have a lot of stuff to get into tonight. Don't mess with Texas.
Yeah, that video was trending on YouTube.
Yeah. The GOP is just as slimy and underhanded as the Democrats, and Kari Lake from Arizona has given us audio proof of that. There's still shit popping off in the Middle East and Ukraine, of course, and we'll talk to Simon about all of that. And Trump smashes the third New Hampshire primary in a row, which he's the first person to have ever done that in U.S. history. So he's well on his way to the GOP nomination. But Nikki Haley is still just clinging on.
Just she's a clinger.
Yes.
I saw, one of the RNC members. They're bringing up a resolution to not. I guess it'll say Trump is the eventual nominee, and they're going to throw their support behind him, which makes sense. That.
Well, I think we can go ahead and just file that under D for duh. I mean, at this point, Nikki Haley she's setting herself up for an embarrassment in her home state. We got the Nevada caucus coming up, which is, just a few days away. And then after that is South Carolina. That's her home state.
Right.
Nevada, it could go one way or the other. I mean, it's pretty much a foregone conclusion that Trump is going to win it. It's just a matter of how much. And in this race, a narrow win is as bad as a loss.
Well, and one thing a lot of the pundits were ignoring about New Hampshire, and I didn't hear, even a lot of the conservative people I didn't hear bring up, is that New Hampshire has an open primary. So if you're an independent, when you go in to vote, you say, all right, I want a D ballot or I want an R ballot. Mm-hmm. So if you're an independent, why would you go in and say you want a D ballot? if they're not even having a primary. So you could probably be rest assured that most of the independents were voting in the Republican primary.
Well, CNN let the mask slip when they were talking. They called it a Mars and Venus approach to exit polling, where 70% of people who were asked at exit polls, 70% of people who voted for Trump were registered Republicans, 27% were registered unaffiliated or undeclared, and 3% were not registered at all prior to that day. And then you look at the people who voted for Nikki Haley, and it was an exact inversion. You had 70% were registered undeclared, 27% were registered Republican, and 3% were unregistered up before that day. So Democrats and independents were voting in the Republican primary to skew the results to make it look like the Trump train was having the brakes applied.
Yeah, and I mean, even Trump getting almost 30% of the independents, I mean, that's not bad.
Yeah.
I mean, 30% of the independents against Biden is the election easily.
In New England. In
New England. Yeah. And New Hampshire, they tend to lean libertarian, so there's not going to be a lot of love for Trump there anyways, but I can't imagine those guys would think Nikki Haley's any better unless they were just trying to skew the results.
I am going to say something that is right there at the crossroads of stunning and brave. And if you are a libertarian in New Hampshire, and you're one of the few people who actually watches our show, but if you're a libertarian in New Hampshire and you went in there to pull the lever for Nikki Haley because you're one of the Orange Man bad people, you have no business calling yourself a libertarian pulling the lever for war whore Nikki Haley. Mm-hmm. She's John Bolton sans mustache. She's Lindsey Graham in heels. So what you think you're doing pulling the lever for somebody like that because you've been duped by the media industrial complex into falling for the tool of the military industrial complex, you should just go ahead and turn in your L card right now, because I will be taking them.
And it seems like a lot of those in that free state movement are those more left-leaning libertarians anyways. I mean, you're moving to the Northeast. You'd have to be.
Yeah, pretty much.
If you're a right-leaning libertarian, you just head out to the mountain states or whatever to get away from them. But that being said, I bet the Nevada one, that'll probably be a blowout because I believe they have closed primaries. South Carolina, you're right, probably will be Nikki Haley gets spanked. And she'll probably stay in till the end, I bet. I mean, Bongino brought it up, and I've heard a couple other people, the heir and the spare, which,
Yep.
During the feudal system, you had your heir, but you still wanted to have another boy in case something happened to that one. And she's counting on Trump either getting jailed or worse. Who knows what will happen to him.
Yeah. Yeah. And to be the type of person who is just hanging on for the off chance that something, whether an incarceration or a health scare or any other number of things that could happen if people in power get desperate, you're a bad person.
Yeah, and the progressive, I've noticed with the whole Ukraine and Russia thing, they tend to dehumanize their opposition disgustingly. A lot of people on the right aren't for what Putin did either, but they're like, those poor son of a bitches fighting for it. But the progressives dehumanize them to a point that, they call them orcs.
Yeah.
They have no sympathy for the opposition at all. They don't care what happens. And that's what they're trying to do to the movement, Trump's movement. They're dehumanizing them. So maybe setting up I hate to say it, but for Trump to get taken out by somebody, you're killing a fascist. They're still calling him a fascist at this point.
Right. And Dean Phillips, for anybody who didn't know, there is a primary challenger to Joe Biden. It's Dean Phillips, He went on, I think it was News Nation, or it might have been CNN, or one of the lefter leaning news outlets, and he was given an interview about he went to a Trump rally I think a week ago or so, and he was saying that he had an event right across the street, and he's like, well, before my event started, there were people lined up out the door and around the block for this Trump event. So he's like, you know what, I'm going to go over there, and I'm going to, before my event starts, I'm going to talk to a few of the people standing outside in the cold and just introduce myself, tell them who I am, and see what kind of people they are. And he's like, and they're just normal people. They were nice. He's like, I told them who I was and what I was doing, and they just struck up a conversation. He's like, these are just salt of the earth, regular, Midwestern people. And the fact that he's like, and my party is demonizing them like there's some type of enemy, some type of foreign force to be vanquished and defeated. And he's like, that's ugly. I don't like where my party's going. I'm like, good on you, Dean Phillips.
Yeah. So once the Trump derangement syndrome kicks off full, once he gets the nod, it's going to be insane.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And we talked to Mike Shelby last week about what's going to happen, after he gets the nomination and if he gets elected. And him being defeated is bad. Him being elected is almost equally as bad, I think, because it's going to be like the Floyd riots on steroids. And at this point, I think that the media has realized that they have burned every shred of credibility that they ever had between the 2016 election, the COVID shit, the January 6th narrative, and basically everything that they've lied to, not just gotten it wrong, but lied to the American people about over the last.
Well, and they're starting to acknowledge that. I saw some clip from a reporter who was talking about, back in, the Dan Rather, Walter Cronkite days, what they said was truth.
Yeah, I saw that today too.
People anymore, what the media says, they're like, what's their motivation here? Where are they getting this from? And she said, basically said, we got to work harder now. You can't.
Yeah. Right. So now that we have the internet, we have multiple sources of news. I am going to take a math teacher approach to everything that the media has. Show your work. Mm-hmm. Show me your work. If you cannot tell me how your thought process worked to get to the equation that you have written down for your answer, you're wrong. I don't care if the answer is correct. You don't get full credit.
Right. And the alternative media too, like the whole January 6th thing when it popped up. We touched on it 2 or 3 weeks ago. I think Dan Bongino keeps pounding on it. I saw it on Tucker now recently too. And now Massey's bringing it up. And this thing just keeps, not to get on a different subject already, this thing keeps getting worse and worse.
And weird.
And I noticed something too that I saw somebody brought up. That first video, I install security camera systems occasionally, a lot for like municipalities and government agencies. And I noticed it was a pan tilt zoom. I'm like, somebody is controlling this camera. And since it had such a there's pan tilt zooms that will notice a person and track them. Mm-hmm. But so they're either lying on their frames per second thing, which we've gone over, or there was a guy there manning this camera, tracking the guy walking around with the bomb, and either notified and it was blown off, or he didn't notify anybody.
Yep, and that's what Darren Beatty and Dan Bongino keep talking about. Like, we want the communications logs.
Oops, they lost them. I saw that came out today.
It's like, no, you didn't. You didn't lose them. They weren't corrupted. You either deleted them after the fact, or you turned all of the communications off and were using burner phones or something because you were up to no good. Now, there's a few theories out there about what's going on. Almost all of them involve that this was the government doing something that they shouldn't have been doing, whether it was a red cell op that just got, they left a prop out and forgot about it, which seems highly unlikely that they would be doing a red cell up right next to the election certification day. And the fact that there was another one left at the RNC kind of poo-poos that theory. Bongino's favorite theory is that it was the plan B, that if things did not break bad at the Capitol the way they wanted them to, then they could fall back on, oh, somebody left a bomb at the DNC and almost assassinated the vice president. And since the riot got a little more out of hand at the Capitol, they went with plan A. You were never supposed to know about plan B, but somehow it got out. My personal theory is that we were never meant to know about the pipe bomb. I think that the pipe bomb was more meant not for the benefit of the media and not for the benefit of the people to know about it so much as it was something left there that somebody could call up, and it was used to draw resources away from the Capitol so that things would break bad at the Capitol and the riot would get out of hand.
Yeah, because that was a Capitol police officer that found it. So they were already trying to pull resources off at that point.
Yep.
Yeah,
I think we were never meant to know that there was something there, and it was probably planned and executed by a very, very small handful of people within the president and vice president's orbit. The people in the Secret Service probably had no idea about it. People in the Capitol Police probably had no idea about it, except maybe a couple of handpicked patsies that they knew would be on the take. You'd have all of these nervous Capitol Hill police people that are expecting some kind of a riot or an insurrection or something. You know, the media was hyping that this is, oh, these Trump supporters are going to get violent. They're going to get violent. So they're already on edge. And then imagine you're like a Capitol Hill sergeant and you're in charge of a squad of patrol officers trying to guard the Capitol. And suddenly you hear over the radio, possible explosive device at the DNC headquarters. Now you're like, oh shit, we got to get over there ASAP, call EOD, cordon off the area, draw resources. You know, they're already stretched thin as it was. The National Guard wasn't deployed. There were no extra police officers on duty that day. So yeah, I think it was an internal op that accidentally got out to wider circulation.
Well, and that whole thing, you could see it glowing from space. I mean,
yeah,
every Boog related individual was saying that, and I haven't seen anything where you know they'd love to say if they were. I haven't seen any of the people prosecuted that they was a member of the Boogaloo movement, because they knew that was a glowy op from the get-go.
Yeah, and the fact that something that would be so easy to capitalize on in the narrative of that day, possible explosive device left at the DNC in an attempted assassination of the vice president elect. Mm-hmm. You know, if it was something that we were supposed to know about, they would be on that story like a bitch in heat. But the fact that they don't want to talk about it tells me everything that I need to know, that we were never meant to know that this event happened in the first place, and it got out, and they're just like, well, you know, ignore it.
And then everything ends up missing.
Yeah.
And, you know, Massey was grilling, I forget who he's grilling about, if they interviewed the guy that found the bomb. And the guy was like, well, we interviewed, I can't remember his exact quote, but he said he interviewed everybody that needed to be interviewed.
Not good enough.
Yeah, that information is out there. Mm-hmm. I'm going to guess the interview records probably end up getting lost in a couple weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's exactly what they're so afraid of Trump getting reelected for, because at this point, I think that he is going to do the calculus and be like burning this whole city to the ground, you know, metaphorically speaking, and any fallout that comes from that action is less harm than allowing things to go on as they have been going on. He's like, oh, you want to find out who killed JFK? I'll tell you where Jimmy Hoffa's buried.
Yeah.
I got the documents right here. You want call logs from the January 6th? Got them right here. And the ones that I don't have, I've got evidence that they were deleted. And the people who deleted them, we know who did it, and they're going to jail for a very long time.
Yeah. I'm 78. Fuck it when I'm done. They can try and throw me in jail.
Yeah. And if he picks somebody like Vivek Ramaswamy, if his rhetoric matches his action, assassinating Trump is just going to slot him right in there, and it's going to be business as usual. Nobody's going to believe that 38-year-old Vivek Ramaswamy fell over from a heart attack.
Yeah, he's going to have to do like Biden and pick somebody as vice president that the other side absolutely would not want in there, so they're not motivated to try anything.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Because if Biden goes down, Kamala would have been terrible that whole time.
Yeah. I think a ChatGPT algorithm would be a better vice president than Kamala Harris.
And he's committed to her at this point. I mean, he can't drop her.
Nope.
Can't drop a strong black woman off the ticket.
You know what? Just despite what Bongino says about her hating the spotlight, and despite what the conversation we had with Mike last Friday is, I'm still in the Michelle Obama being slotted into that with Gavin Newsom as vice president. And when Mike said that she hasn't accomplished anything, it didn't come to me in that moment. But the more I think about it, I think that works in her favor, that she hasn't done anything in her life. I think that if she becomes the DNC nominee, we are going to see North Korea Kim dynasty levels of revisionist history that are suddenly going to spring up out of the ether surrounding the wonderful and grandiose achievements of Michelle Obama in her early life. I mean, because some of the crazy shit the North Koreans claim the Kim dynasty.
Oh yeah, he does. He doesn't poop either.
Yeah, exactly. His body is so efficient it doesn't manufacture waste. And he planted a tree that's 100 feet tall, and it's only 100 feet tall because he's the one that planted it. And all the other dumb shit. He dug the trench at the DMZ single-handedly with a spoon or whatever.
Yeah. And I don't know if they tack Gavin Newsom on there or not. I mean, who knows?
Roger Stone seems to be under the impression that Gavin Newsom's substantial wealth is going to allow him to buy his way into the vice presidency to sort of help fund the campaign moving forward.
Yeah, I think speaking of going forward, I think this Fetterman guy setting himself up for a Democrat presidential run with his wide-ranging appeal that he's starting to get going on.
Yeah, either John Fetterman has played a masterful game of 3D chess and conned the progressive wing of the Democrat Party and is essentially an old school Blue Dog Democrat. Which
I don't have a problem with. I don't have a problem with Blue Dog Democrats.
No, I don't either. And the things that John Fetterman sounds like a Democrat from like the early 80s, completely reasonable, loves America, wants to see us succeed, just has some slight disagreements on how to get there, right?
Like, why did he shit on the Democrats? The Democrats are trying to get rid of the old Zimbonis. They want to get rid of our little upper decker lip pillows, the Zins, for no good reason whatsoever. Fetterman's comment was, "Don't we have something better to be working on?" No.
Yeah, and he's talking about the immigration thing is messing with American dream. And
why do you want to fuck with blue collar guys and their Zins? What's the point of it, Democrat Party? And it had unilateral approval, except for like Fetterman and Manchin were for the Zimbonis. It's like, what in the hell these guys think? Everything going on, and this is what they think they need to pass through.
Yeah, and I don't even know what you're talking about. You're talking about the ice smoothing machines, or
no
what?
Zins? You don't know what a Zin is? It's a little nicotine pouch.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The old Zimbonis, a little upper decky.
Yeah, okay, I know what those things are. They were trying to ban that, and this is what occupies your time. This is what keeps you awake at night. Jesus Christ!
It was like one of Schumer's priority bills, and
priority.
Fetterman was like, "We don't got nothing better to be working on. You want to get rid of Zins?"
Fucking turd.
Got to get rid of anything that brings anybody pleasure if you're a progressive. I think, unless it's debased sexual acts.
Yeah, I watched a Lotus Eaters podcast the other day where they surmise, and I'm kind of waffling between my two theories about Fetterman now, but they're surmising that his stroke acted like a hard factory reset on his brain. And now that basically his hard drive has been wiped, and now that everything's kind of booting back up, he's behaving normally. The leftist programming has been purged from his operating system, and he's just kind of just like, why are we doing these stupid things?
Yeah, his common sense came back, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he says that he never said a lot of the stuff that the progressives were pushing. He said the progressives were pushing this image of him, and he didn't say a lot of that stuff. But I'm gonna guess he just let him do it because he figured he's obviously not dumb.
No.
I mean, if the progressives are going to throw a bunch of money at you and paint this fake picture to get you in office, go for it. And I think, where he's at in Pennsylvania, his stances are going to be popular.
Oh yeah. Yeah, especially if they're popularly held. Now the other theory that I have is that this isn't John Fetterman. This is a convincing lookalike who
Also plausible.
Yeah, I think that the real John Fetterman is either in a coma or dead, and they found a convincing lookalike to take his place, and they figured if they paid him enough money that he would just, do what they say, and now he's like, if they out me as being the not real John Fetterman, then that's fraud on their behalf, and if they say that my stroke is causing me to have this sea change in my views, that's ableism. And that's another cardinal sin on the left. So he's basically got him over a barrel right now, if that's the case, which, good on him for getting his.
Chat over here. It must be Fetterman is using the sweatshirts as a medical recovery device and recovering to the reset. Yes.
I guess I got to get me a Carhartt hoodie then.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with him wearing that crap in Congress, whatever. As long as you're being smart about it, wear fucking pajamas. It's all a clown show. I mean, just make everybody wear clown suits at this point.
Yeah, I mean, they made a big deal about Obama's tan business suit, and Kirsten Sinema shows up on day one wearing hooker heels. I mean, just go wild right now. It's only a matter of time before we elect the first drag queen to the House or the Senate, and they show up dressed like a weird hypersexualized demon clown. So you might as well just have some fun with it while you can, right?
Yeah, and so that's what's going on. I mean, we hit on all the domestic stuff, I believe.
Not Texas.
Well, yeah, we kind of wandered off a little bit.
Yeah, we'll hit with Texas real quick. It looks like Texas is getting the old boogaloo going over there, and
building some big igloos down in Texas.
Yeah, if you're listening on audio, I pointed to the boogaloo flag that always hangs proudly in the background behind me. Yeah, it must be unseasonably cold in Texas this time of year if they could put together a large ice shelter in such haste. But Greg Abbott deployed they call it the Texas Department of Public Safety, which I think is a lame ass name. I think you need something a little more ballsy than that. But he deployed them to put up razor wire, tell the feds to pound sand at Shelby Park in Eagle Pass there, and the Supreme Court, for whatever god awful reason, decided to side with the feds, and then they issued an injunction. And so while they're litigating that, Greg Abbott's like, double down on the wire. If they intend to cut it,
the injunction said they had to let them cut the wire, right? So just keep throwing more wire up there. It didn't say you can't put down more wire.
Yeah, I guess so. And with that being said, last I heard, it was 19 state governors, other states, have
I think we're up to 25 now.
Oh, we are? Ooh. Yeah,
interestingly enough, it doesn't match up very close to the new Civil War movie that's coming out. I cross-referenced it.
Yeah. Well, I guess if that number is correct, then 25 state governors and at least 7 are in the process of sending troops and materiel down there. So things could get interesting.
Yeah, there was some surprising ones on there. South Carolina was on there. Couple
Both
Midwestern, in Indiana, the Virginias.
North and South Dakota, Ohio, Tennessee,
Yep.
the entire central corridor here from North Dakota down to Texas. Like Kansas.
Yeah, the whole South. The what was it on the Florida Alliance on the Civil War movie appears to be valid.
Yeah.
But and then you had those two dumbasses. I can't remember if they were from the House
Texas.
or
Texas representatives. Joaquin
and they
Castro.
said, well, yeah, Biden should nationalize the Texas National Guard. Well, first off, anytime the National Guard gets activated, the president requests it and the governor decides whether to do it or not.
Yep.
So that'll be a quick conversation. Hey,
Yeah.
Abbott, I'm going to nationalize your troops and make them do what I want in your state. And the fuck you are would be the response, I imagine.
Yeah, and if the president comes back and says, like, well, I'm doing it anyways, do you really think that the battalion commanders who are out there throwing down the razor wire right now are going to be like, oh, the president says we got to cut it down? Now they'll be like, no, I just put this shit down. I'm not picking it back up again.
Well, guys, we're with Biden now. I just can't imagine some brigadier in the Texas National Guard doing that.
I know this isn't fucking Age of Empires where you can like just change sides and expect your troops to just mindlessly obey.
Yeah, that shows how out of touch anybody in the progressive movement is with how military works. And the same thing with Ukraine. How they think you can just keep sending money over there to make it work.
Yeah, it's like they're treating real life like a real-time strategy game. Just keep pumping money and resources into it, and the little guys will come walking out of the barracks, and just got click to requisition more guys. It's like, no, it doesn't work that way.
And I posted this in the chat yesterday. Biden said you need an F-16 to take on the government, and right there on the Texas National Guard front page, F-16.
Yep. You were saying.
So yeah, Cold War with between Texas and the feds at this point. What was the deadline for the response? It's tomorrow.
Don't know, don't care, because we know what it's going to be.
Yeah.
And Bongino had it right today when he said that there's only two paths forward in this, and both of them make Biden look like an asshole.
Yeah. Why would you do that to yourself?
Yeah.
There's no good way out of this. Either you end up looking like a tyrant, or you look like a pussy if you make a demand like that.
Yeah. The only question is which one's less bad. Which one's less bad? Mm-hmm. You try to mobilize like the 3rd Infantry Division or something to hop a couple states over to point guns at the Texas National Guard, assuming that any of them actually would, then you're setting yourself up for a coup.
Yeah.
And if you fold on the issue, then other states are going to look at that and say, well, what else can we get away with telling the feds to pound sand on? What have they been bullying us about?
Well, and once you get down to that level that Biden's trying to bully them in, there's a lot of power. I mean, the sheriff of a county can kick all federal agents out if they want to.
Mm-hmm.
Perfectly within their rights.
Yep.
Municipality could do it. I mean, the power starts tilting upside down once the feds start meddling down at that micro level.
Right. And something that Harrison brought up today, I think, is not getting nearly enough focus. And it was something that was kind of like an earworm right in the back of my head that I couldn't quite put into words. But when he said it this morning, I'm like, that's it. That's what's bothering me so much about this is it's not the fact that they're doing it, bringing in the masses of illegal aliens from all over the world. It's the desperation with which they're doing it. Texas throws some border security up in one town, and suddenly, we got to get the Supreme Court involved. We got to get other members of the military down there. We got to clear this out right away. We got to get the migrants in. We got to get the migrants in. It's like, why are you so desperate to get as many people in as you possibly can as fast as you can? I don't have an answer for that. I know why they're doing it. I just don't know why they're so
They've
desperate.
doubled down so many times at this point. They can't go back. They're like that desperate gambler trying to win his money back at the blackjack table. Just, all right, I lost this hand. I'm going to double down because the next one's going to hit and I'm going to win.
Yep.
And they're 6 or 7 hands deep and doubling down, and they just got to keep doing it at this point.
Lost their car, lost their mortgage.
They bet it all on illegal immigrants, and it is not going like they planned.
No, it's not.
And you saw the thing with the city councilman outside of Chicago. Did you see that? Was it Naperville, maybe?
Yeah.
That was
the sign-up sheet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can tell you exactly how many names are going to be on that sign-up sheet after it goes out. I'm going to say there's going to be one poor soul. one guy who's going to follow through. But
or one guy whose friend decided it would be funny to put his name down.
Yeah. And you could probably drive through those suburbs. I bet there's all sorts of signs on there. We welcome immigrants, blah, blah, blah. But nope. We welcome immigrants, just not here.
Those stupid signs where it's like, in this house, we believe that no human is illegal. Science is science. And I hate those signs so goddamn much.
We're right next to a we mask up in this house or whatever sign during COVID, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah. Well, that pretty much touches on Texas. We'll see what plays out. I'm going to guess Biden's going to bitch out. He can't, not an election year.
Yeah. So
that pretty much hands it to Trump at that point.
I'm excited to see how this goes. I just hope both sides have fun.
Well, and the thing is, Texans, I don't know how many Texans but Texas, well, they've been diluted a bit by Californians probably, but Texas first, USA second with a lot of them. So they don't, the blue or the red in them doesn't matter when the feds start trying to push around Texas, I'm sure. So.
Oh yeah. There's a Texas independence referendum coming up soon. So.
Well, they had a better chance 10 or 12 years ago, probably.
Yeah. Yes, they did.
They're the same boat as everybody else with all the California refugees, but we've got Simon down here waiting in the.
Yeah, let's bring old Simon
in the lobby. Let me toss him up here. 3, 2, 1. Simon, you there?
Yes, I am. How you doing, guys? It's a pleasure to be with you once again. My show ran a little bit late today. So.
We've been kind of hyper focused on domestic stuff. I didn't really see what happened outside of our borders this week.
Oh no, there's huge news. So
there always is.
No, this is big. Like supposedly we're flying in 2 squadrons of F-35s, a squadron of F-15s, and a squadron of Apache gunships into Israel in short order.
Why?
To fight for which side? I have no idea what this administration.
Well, for F-35s, that's long-range contested air defense penetration, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So that looks like that's not for Lebanon. That's for Iran.
Yeah, that would make sense. That does seem to be something that you would use one of these 5th-gen strike fighters for. Would be a major player.
So they've got 45. They have 10 on back order, and we're advancing them 25.
It's awful damn generous of us.
At $100 million each.
Are those built by Boeing?
With Lockheed Martin.
Oh, okay. Well, they'll be okay.
Yeah. So, no, I mean, that's a massive escalation. And the talk is that Austin's going to be, he's flying overnight, supposedly.
Oh,
to be in Israel.
Austin.
The first planes to fly in tomorrow. Yeah. So, I mean, that's not just like a rumor. That's on quite a few, industry magazines, Channel 12 and Channel 13 mainstream media in Israel, like on air. 9 o'clock
So
news type
is this
stuff
to hit things? Is this to hit things in Iran or to hit the proxy Iran things
to
in
hit
Yemen?
things in Iran.
Oh, okay.
You do not
Well-
need F-35s to, blow up various people in Lebanon.
Well, we didn't need an F-22 to shoot down a Chinese weather balloon either, but that didn't
But
stop.
here we are.
Yeah, they just like to do the go big and go home. But okay, so the F-35s that are going in there, I mean, assuming that they're going to do something in Iran, that's not our pilots in them. That's Israeli pilots, right?
Who knows? If
Yeah.
they've only got 45 planes, right? And suddenly you add 25, so it's a more than 50% increase. Do they have 25 F-35 pilots just sitting around waiting for the next 10 to arrive, and then waiting for another 10, and then for another 5 in a few years' time? Seems unlikely to me.
I mean, I could see Israel having some. I mean, Israel's always planning for conflict, so I could see them having some backup pilots because you're going to lose some planes, so you want to have something to slot those pilots into. But that seems a little excessive. So, who knows? Maybe they'll just be some Jewish-looking Americans who.
I think there's going to be a few American Jews with very strong New York accents
Pilot
suddenly
the squadron commander is going to come out. All right, let me see your dicks. Who's circumcised?
something
You're
along
flying.
those lines. Yeah.
Oh man. All right, so escalation towards hot World War III seems to be on the horizon. So thank you, greatest ally. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Lovely.
Had you guys really not seen that?
No, I didn't see that. Like I said, I've been just focused on this Texas thing because that's super interesting to me. But
Well, you should be grateful if they send some F-35 pilots to Israel. It means they won't be used on us, right?
That's what they keep telling us. Hey, you need F-16s to take on the government. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Texas Air National Guard seems to have them. So
Yeah.
your move.
What were the other ones that you mentioned? You said F-30 Apaches and what else?
F-15s.
Oh, okay. That's a heavy strike fighter there. That's
Yeah.
I mean, they've got those set up. Those are basically a bomber at this point.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so if I know that Israel talks a big game when it comes to taking on Iran, but they seem to be struggling as far as the Hamas thing goes in Gaza and the stuff in southern
guys.
Lebanon.
I mean, I don't know if you heard my show yesterday, but we've got this guy called Barkat.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's a real, they think they can squeeze out Netanyahu if they get Barkat instead. He's like just nuke until they glow specialist. So that's a massive problem. We've got the ICJ ruling tomorrow, and we've got the CCR case in Washington State, which is 1,000 lawyers suing the Biden administration for complicity in genocide. That starts in federal court tomorrow. So I think, I was just saying with Sam on the other channel, that there's a good chance that tomorrow afternoon there's going to be a punch up in front of CNN cameras on the border just to distract the entire American population from finding out that America's best allies has been found guilty of genocide.
Well, did you see that clip on, was it the Alex Jones show today with the Palestinians and they had the white flag? Did you see that one?
There's been two terrible scenes of a 50-year-old man walking with his family, trying to recover the dead bodies of some relatives.
Yep,
he's literally holding a flag. He gets interviewed by Sky News. They walk like 100 yards down the road and he gets shot in the chest and killed. And then there's another one, a kid, like teenager, goes out holding a white flag to check if it's safe for his family to evacuate an area. He gets shot and killed. His brother runs out to drag his body into that house.
Oh, I think we're losing you, bud.
Yeah, he broke up. He broke up a little
shot
bit.
And killed, and he's literally collapsed on top of him with the white flag. Is that better there?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
50-year-old man one was real bad. I mean, because they were interviewing, you could tell they were interviewing for Israeli media, showing, yeah, look, we're letting these Palestinians through. Look, here's this one. Camera shut off. There's a guy filming across the street, though, with a cell phone. Bam, they shoot the guy in the chest.
Yeah, holding the white flag in like group of three or four civilians. It was actually Sky News Arabia, I think, who was interviewing him. Yeah, and yeah, it distinct throughout, right? They attacked the Palestinian Red Crescent Society today. They attacked a UN refugee center, killed a dozen people, wounded 75. They just don't give a shit. They really, really, really just, it's just like, F you.
I mean,
We don't
the
care. We'll kill
Israel,
whoever we want.
they're going biblical on it. I mean, what 7 generations? What kills 7 generations, or for some Old Testament quote? I mean, they're bringing that back.
It's a big issue for the State Department and the British Civil Service as well, saying that, we're losing like 100 years of goodwill in 3 months for a country of 7 million Jews, 2 of whom are Russian. So does it make sense to like throw away everything that people have liked about us since 1945 for the sake of like 5.5 million Jews? Because 2 million come from Russia. Then you've got 2 million Arabs and 500,000 Christians, right? So we're actually talking about 5.5 million Jews, half of whom are foreign born. I mean, it's an absolutely ridiculous risk-benefit analysis. Absolutely ridiculous.
Well, I mean, if you take the shame, the imposed shame of not standing with Israel completely out of the equation, there is no benefit. It's all risk. It's all like they're so worried about looking bad in front of their cocktail party friends that they're actually letting
the only other explanation is you're trying to trigger Armageddon. That's the only other explanation.
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility, because we are run by an apocalyptic death cult.
Yeah, and I mean, I've called into other shows and said, look, you're not weighing the Christian Zionist factor at all. You're not weighing the whole kind of like, Red Cow, Third Temple, Armageddon crowd who aren't making what we would define as rational decisions.
Right. They believe in it and they take it very, very seriously.
Yeah, and you can then say the same thing about the Iranians in many cases, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you think, that, you're rewarded by becoming a shaheed, a martyr, and you're going to get 72 versions, and your family going to get paid a pension for the rest of, what would have been your natural life, then it's not such a bad deal, from that point of view, right?
All right.
So this is what, we need our listeners to be aware of, and I know you guys get it. We constantly say this, but it's not what we believe. It's what the other people believe and what they're acting upon.
Right. That's what I mean when I've been, Ben, how long have I been saying that phrase? For 2 or 3 years now. It doesn't matter if you believe in it or not. Right. They believe in it and they take it very seriously.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how crazy it sounds. They have it in their heart that this is what they need to do moving forward to appease God.
So did you see?
I mean, even I think this is doing more damage. Even with all our fucking around in Afghanistan and Iraq, I don't feel like the Arab world hated us for it. It seems like this, though, is turning the entire Arab Main Street against us, supporting Israel in this way.
But not only that, I mean, we've flown them, I don't know, like something like 200 plane loads of munitions and like 20 ship loads of vehicles, right? Mm-hmm. And the Brits have flown in 40, 50 plane loads of ammo via Cyprus. And if this judgment comes out and instead of America saying, okay, Israel, you got to knock it off, we have Austin standing there on the tarmac, kind of like flagging in F-35s. I mean, can you think of the optics of that? It's just appalling. I mean, short of him, like, signing the missiles and pushing the button to release them. It's about as involved as you can get, right?
All right. So hypothetically, let's say that this judgment comes out
Yeah.
and they say yes, the United States government and any other co-parties to it.
Well, it's not
are-
about the United States. It's just about the Israeli government at this point. Yeah.
I thought you said that the Biden administration was being held.
Oh, you're talking about the other case in Washington. That's a domestic case as opposed to the International Court of Justice case. Yeah.
Oh,
God knows how many months that will take till we get a decision. But that is also under the American version of the Genocide Convention, saying that the Biden administration is complicit.
Yeah.
Because they're sending the munitions with no kind of like export conditions.
Yeah. Okay, so that's okay. Yeah, I got it now. That's two separate cases. So let's say the one that is the International Criminal Court. Let's say they're found guilty of.
Well, no, but see, this is the thing. It's not the criminal court. It's the Court of Justice, which is the court between countries as opposed to against individuals. And this is the injunction stage. It's not the final decision on the merits. Now, just for comparison's sake, the case that was started in relation to Serbia and Kosovo in 1993, that was finally adjudicated in 2007 for 14 years. Okay, so this could literally easily take a decade. Okay, but based upon the injunction, there could be referrals to the International Criminal Court. They could issue red notices so that none of these Israeli politicians or generals can leave the country, like happened with Ariel Sharon. And you could find a lot of European governments under pressure from various civil organizations to fulfill the requirements to prevent the genocide.
But you're talking years and years, though, aren't you?
No. The prevention requirements would kick in immediately.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it would be you must take steps as the French government or the British government to do whatever you can to make the genocide stop. So the answer to that would be don't give them any money, don't give them any weapons, don't allow them to come into any conferences, put sanctions on them, etc., all of which they're going to be extremely reluctant to do. But in the meantime, the whole of the global South plus China are going to be going, hey, what happened to the rules-based international order? You've been telling us we had to do this and this and this for the following reasons. Here you have ex-judges tell you have to do this, and you're telling them drop dead.
Mm-hmm.
So that it destroys the whole rules-based international order. The other thing that's interesting is both the Chinese and the Algerians at the UN Security Council on Tuesday said that Palestine should be made a full member. They should be given full statehood as opposed to an observer status. And the Algerians said that they were speaking on behalf of the entire membership of the non-aligned movement. That's 120 countries.
Crazy.
So that's a really big deal. So if that goes to a vote in the General Assembly, that's guaranteed to pass. And then the issue comes that we had, and I was freaking out when Putin recognized Donetsk and Luhansk, and everyone was like, yeah, it's on paper. And he was signing these documents, and I'm like, yeah, what is he recognizing? Not the name, what boundary is he recognizing? So if 130, 40, 50 countries suddenly say that East Jerusalem is the capital of Palestine, then what happens to all those consulates and embassies and Trump and all this kind of stuff, who's saying that the undivided city of Jerusalem is the Jewish capital? If 3/4 of the world suddenly says, no, it's not, only 3/4 of the city is the Jewish capital, the other quarter is the Palestinian capital. and they've got to be allowed unimpeded access to the Al-Aqsa Mosque. It has really big knock-on kind of like second, third, and fourth degree consequences that a lot of people aren't considering at this point. I mean, I know there's all kinds of lawyers and so forth who are, but your average punter who's more concerned about the Super Bowl is is not too worried about it. But we have this interesting thing that we're going to launch tomorrow. So there's now massive censorship if you're saying a word beginning with J or a word beginning with ZIO, or mentioning the size of their hats or particular faiths and so forth. So I remembered this cartoon series which ran only 17 episodes from 1969 to 1971, same era as the Banana Splits, just tail end of the American involvement in Vietnam, and it has a blue character who is an animal who bears no relation to any human beings whatsoever, but happens to have a very large nose. And
it sounds like Watto from Star Wars.
Yeah, no. It's
Anakin, you want to buy a vehicle?
and then swarms of these red insects that he's constantly trying to kill, who are proving to be extremely resilient and also have a lot of tunnels. So some people might deduce a message from that. I couldn't possibly comment. But anyway, we're launching the presentation of the 12 funniest episodes of those starting from tomorrow for the next 12 weeks.
And what is this show called?
You'll have to find out tomorrow.
I will be waiting with bated breath.
Does the blue character talk with any sort of accent at all?
He does.
Does he sound like Bernie Sanders? I'm curious.
I wouldn't necessarily say that, though. He has a kind of maybe a northeastern kind of accent. But anyway, like I said, any comparisons that may spring to your mind are entirely a function of your own racism and nothing to do with my implications.
I'm sure.
Yes.
In 3 parentheses.
Yeah. But I guarantee you, particularly the first episode, because you guys are smart enough and you've talked to me enough to know the ins and outs, that particularly with some of the technology that's involved, albeit that this is from 1969 or 70, you will laugh and laugh and laugh.
I'm sure some of the anachronisms that come up in the old sci-fi shows are quite entertaining when you.
This is not like Star Trek. This is just straight animation.
Great! I can't wait.
You will. If you don't like it, you can tell me you think I stink. But if you do, then hopefully you'll share the clips, and we're going to play them by sheer coincidence on the next 12 Fridays. We may actually make an exception just for the 13th tribe and do a 13th one.
That's a little too much on the hook nose right there. But so Simon, we'll have that to look forward to next week. Tomorrow. Okay. So I wanted to, you've had a pretty good record here on predicting next week's news story. What's the big story going to be for next week, do you think? International story.
I'm not sure they'll attack the Iranians quite that fast. The big thing for next week that I'm willing to predict here and now is that Orban leaves the room again and they sign off on the 50 billion euros of aid for Ukraine on the 1st of February.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Still dumping money down that hole, huh?
United States has cut back their funding of Ukraine a little bit lately.
Temporarily.
And it seems like it didn't make one bit of difference.
No, it has.
Okay.
Their rate of fire for both air defense and artillery is hugely reduced at the moment.
So has Russia made any gains from that?
Yes, they have. Yeah, they have. In towards Kharkov, they're making gains, and also in Avdiivka. And in fact, supposedly they're putting in 50,000 reserves. because they
Well,
want
that-
to crush that and then do a breakout from Avdiivka. So there are actually some quite big developments on the cards there as well. But otherwise, things have gone quiet. Once again, you recall, as I predicted, between Pakistan and Iran. So they kind of fired missiles at each other.
Yep.
And then the Chinese kind of called them up and said, "Hey, what the fuck are you doing? Like, knock it off." And they kind of went, "Yes, immediately." So that has gone. I mean, not only has it gone quiet, but they actually publicized a phone call between their respective foreign ministers saying that they would treat each other with respect and humility.
It's good to see that at least some nuclear powers in the world have a modicum of decorum between them.
Yeah. So they've just
So,
announced.
so is China going to be making any calls between Biden and Texas? Maybe we're going to have a.
It's funny that you should say that, because it's been alleged, and I think there's a good reason to believe this, because the Chinese are mocking the Biden administration in their mainstream media, that because they found that bombing the Yemenis has been totally and utterly counterproductive, and they don't want to communicate with the Iranians, they've now apparently officially asked the Chinese to help rein in the Houthis. So the Biden administration is begging the Chinese to help them. And the Chinese response today was, "Hey, scumbags, you just ran a destroyer through the Taiwan Strait yesterday with air cover, and now you're asking us to help you. Let me think about that for 1 nanosecond."
No.
No, the Bugs Bunny. No.
Yep. So what's the I saw a meme today, and I know what the chances of it are practically nil. But funny thing was that hot take. In the coming days, Russia is going to start funneling weapons and money through Cuba to pissed off Texans in revenge for what's going on in Ukraine.
That'd be great. Get
I
some
think
Russian-made AKs.
Do you think the Texans are short of ammo or firearms?
No, but more is always gooder.
Yeah. I'm not sure that's necessarily required. But
how good is the Russians' shoulder-mounted ground-to-air? I wonder. That's probably what.
I mean, that is some
man pads. Is that what they're?
Some javelins and some air defense systems would probably be quite welcome, assuming that all the F-35s have been sent to Israel by that point. I think that there'll be a scuffle tomorrow. I'm willing to stick my neck out on that they'll get the Border Patrol guys to have a punch up, no firearms, just a scrap in front of CNN cameras. But I don't think it's going to go kinetic, as you would say, anytime soon. Now, what is interesting and what you should definitely keep your eye on is that both Liz Cheney and McConnell and Romney and Lankford and a few other Republican senators are now saying that the reason they're not going to get a immigration deal as part of the Ukraine aid package is because Trump is telling the Republican senators to block it in order that he can retain immigration as a general election issue. And I reckon that is total BS, but it's very interesting that they're setting up, because they know how incredibly badly they're polling on this. The Rasmussen poll that came out today was like 45% of Democrats blame Biden for the chaos on the border. Republicans, it's like 85, and independents, it's like 65 or something, right? And roughly, right? And so they would love to be able to say, we have this solution, but Trump is blocking it. And that's why we're not implementing it, and shift all the blame onto Trump. And it looks like about 20 Republican senators are willing to go along with that. So it just goes to show that if Trump gets elected, even if he has 55 Republicans, if 20 of them are traitors, what's he going to get done?
Be a repeat of his first administration.
Going to be
No shit. Simon died.
Yeah. Well, there was one thing that we didn't get to domestically, and that was what's going on with Kari Lake down in Arizona.
Oh, and the bribery.
Yeah, that story. There's going to be more unfolding, I think, in the next couple of days. Thanks, Simon, if you can hear us. It kind of sucks that you dropped out there in the middle of your sentence.
He's been having internet issues on Sam's show too. I've noticed.
Yeah, maybe it's his hardware taking a dump. But
it's all the different VPNs pulling his traffic, trying to track him down.
Probably. But yeah, so with what's going on with Kari Lake down in Arizona is there's some stuff that's going to be coming out. I don't want to speak too much on it right now, but essentially what it boils down to is Kari Lake ran for governor in Arizona, lost under some mysterious circumstances, claims that there was a great deal of fraud in her election, filed several lawsuits that were thrown out of court under suspicious circumstances. Basically everything going on with the elections in Arizona was under suspicious circumstances.
Yeah.
But so now she's running for Senate, and the chair of the Arizona GOP essentially came to her and tried to bribe her to stay out of politics for the next 2 years.
Not a small amount either. I mean,
yeah, basically said, name your price. And
yeah,
she
big
was,
East Coast donors.
Yeah. And he was trying to be very coy about it, and she was secretly recording it. And she was just like, he's like, so, you know, you're like, what's it going to take? And she's like, to buy me off? And he's like, oh no,
I wouldn't
not
say
to buy.
that.
I wouldn't say that. She's like, no, this is exactly what it is. You're offering me money to get something that you want that runs counter to what I'm trying to do. You're buying me off. Oh, well, I mean, yeah, you could put it that way. The guy sounds like an absolute fucking weasel.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, she was secretly recording it. In addition to the bribery, there were some veiled threats. I don't know if you heard about that, but he mentioned the cartels unprovoked. Said there's cartel members operating in all 50 states. And she said something along the lines of, if they want to stop me, they'll have to kill me. And she was sounded like she was like kind of joking and facetious. Yeah. And he just kind of was like, well,
I mean, we got people in all 50 states.
Yeah. So this is, everybody's making a big deal about the bribery. I think that the veiled threats are the bigger story, but the bribery is the more substantive and definite. Like, you can definitely point to that audio and say there was bribery involved.
Mm-hmm.
The threats of violence or assassination are kind of implied, but the bribery is definitely there. So,
and she's been floated as a Trump VP pick too. I just hope he doesn't pick her. I mean, she appeals to too much of the same core as Trump. You're not gaining anything.
And she's a big personality too.
Yeah,
she's a very big personality. I don't think the Dawn is going to risk putting somebody that could outshine him.
Yeah,
in the VP slot. There are places I think she would be good. She's running for Senate right now. I think if she got Senate, she should stay right there. And if she loses in the Senate, she's a former journalist, press secretary, or something of those.
You know, I hope the Trump cabinet, I mean, we're over an hour, but I hope the Trump cabinet this time isn't as disappointing as the last one. You know, when he started playing that out last time, it's like, oh, what the fuck? You know, it's like, Chief of Staff, who be Reince Priebus.
It's like, oh, well, there we go.
Yeah.
Wasted potential.
I mean, he's going to start rolling that out here. I mean, yeah, God, I hope not. I mean, we'll know what it's going to be like if it's the same shit again. It's like, didn't you learn anything, you dumb fucking old man? So we'll see how it goes.
Yep.
But yeah,
burn it all down. Burn that city to the ground, metaphorically speaking, peacefully, patriotically.
Mostly peaceful.
Yes.
We're 10 minutes over. Everybody, thanks for sticking around. Quite a bit of you on Rumble and on YouTube. I looked at our Rumble earnings. We're up to 78 cents. So
Total or per episode?
total.
Yeah.
So keep watching, liking, get us in the algorithm. We want to make $1. I'll go get $1 out of the Road to Liberty account.
Cash it, frame it, put it up behind you.
Put it on stream, roll it up.
Yeah.
No, wait. Nope, don't want to do that on stream. So thanks for joining us tonight. Like I said, like us, comment on it, get us in the algorithms. We'll get that $1. YouTube, Facebook, Roads #2 Liberty. If you're on Rumble, like us on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, like us on Rumble. And as always, stay honky.